Hey guys, if you like this content, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys like the video and subscribed to my channel. It helps make these videos worth it going forward. Hey guys, Altcoin Sherpa here with the crypto market review. As always, this is not financial advice. I'm not an expert doing research. Let's just look at BTC USD on the daily. This doesn't look very good, of course. It's best, in my opinion, to think of these areas as these areas is the key word, as support and resistance. Having strict clean lines like this is usually not the best idea in very choppy conditions. It's best to think of these as areas of support. Now, there are clear wicks that are going to be significant levels, like the yearly open and what have you, or like this big wick down on May 19th, for instance. That's going to be an area of interest. But with all these other quote-unquote support levels, they're going to be hard to differentiate from each other because of the price action that we've seen. There's not going to be one significant level that's going to be tested. We saw in this big run up, there are some like key levels, for instance. Like you could have gotten away with just buying or getting close to bidding like this swing low in early January, like this kind of like mini double bottom, depending on how you want to visualize that. And obviously price blitzed up from 30K. But in these current conditions, you can see that price is just wicking all over the place, and it's a little bit harder to tell what the quote-unquote levels of support and resistance are. From like a higher time frame point of view, like on the daily, you can see that there's a lot of volume being transacted between this 41K and 30K area. And if price breaks below this current area, as I said, this area of support, then I can see the next significant area being this 24K level. And you can see with volume profile that this does have a decent amount of volume transacted in this area. And of course, the 20K region is going to have quite a bit of support as well. Like that would be like a very good buy, in my opinion, for the first go. 24K is like the area of interest here. If this current 28K level gets broken, taking away volume profile for now, as I said before, we can see these areas of support just getting tapped over and over again, and it's just a little bit alarming. It's not really super encouraging to see this these levels getting tapped over and over. As I always like to say, the demand area is like a bouncing rubber ball. The more times it's tapped, the weaker it gets, and it's that way for support and resistance. And you'll notice the same type of reactions when you saw $6,000 in 2018, where price just kept nailing over and over, and then it just fell through. So what I'm hoping for is to not see that here, but so far it does look a little bit like that, where we're seeing, first reaction decent, second less so, third less so, and then it just falls through. So this is kind of like the overall price action that you see in these types of situations, and I'm really just hoping that we don't see that here. 24K is like the next area up, in my opinion. If 28K gets broken, though, I think it'll come quick and very fast. What are the what are the bull cases here? There aren't a whole lot, to be honest, because the weekly just looks terrible. I mean, this weekly level looks, the weekly chart looks just not good at all. Like last week was pretty nasty closing below this 32.3K level. I use this current level to denote this was a significant weekly close that we haven't seen price close below in many months. Like all the way back since in early January, or even earlier than that, in December. But we haven't seen this price close below this significant weekly level in quite some time, and now price just, it's kind of hard to see, but closed a little bit below that area and is now looking a little bit uglier. So from a high time frame standpoint of view, like this, again, this doesn't look very good at all. I mean, I don't see how you can really argue this being bullish, in my opinion, but I mean, everybody has different strategies and outlooks and whatever. But so like the next area up, in my opinion, would be like the 28K level. Now, with that said, volume has really dried up, and overall liquidity on the exchanges has dried up as well, from what I understand. And it wouldn't really take much to squeeze bears at this point. And with that said, like, you know, any big mover could also move the markets pretty easily, in my opinion, from a context standpoint, like compared to back when we saw in February and March. Like the liquidity and volume have just dried up on exchanges from what I've seen. But in general, like this, as I said, this doesn't look really very good at all. Now, I always did have the idea that 45 to 50,000 was going to get squeezed before new lows, and my idea is very getting challenged very heavily right now. You know, I've already come to the realization that, like, you know, I could be very, very, very wrong with that idea, and it's looking like I am wrong. So maybe this is just like a bearish consolidation, and then like another leg down is coming. But I mean, overall, like, as I said, this doesn't really look bullish in my opinion. But with that said, like, support is still support for now, and this entire area is still support, as I said. Like, you can just kind of call this area support. There are still going to be orders here. This demand area is still available, and still their orders are still all there. But as I said, these orders are getting picked apart every time. So support is still support until shown otherwise. With that said, this the longer that price just kind of hangs around here, like, I think like the less bullish you can be. And from a context standpoint too, like, even though prices tap this area over and over, it's still very different than back in 2020, in my opinion, where price is still hanging out below, like well below the all-time high levels back in like the summer of 2020. Like, sure, you saw like this big nuke down in late September, and then like a long consolidation period again. But you'll notice that the candles here, like, they're very like lower volatility, which is usually a good sign of accumulation. Whereas like currently we're seeing like a lot of crazy spikes in both directions. And at first, back in kind of late June time period, I thought that maybe we hit like a more calm time period where volume was really drying up and potentially accumulating for that squeeze up to 40K or so. But it looks like now there is like more and more selling going on. So that's kind of like an idea that looks like to be wrong, in my opinion, so far. But I mean, again, accumulation period, you can look to see back in June of 2020, like, notice just the bodies of these candles are just like this is like a choppy time period, and this is another reason why altcoins really flew hard, was because, like, you know, this was a perfect ranging environment, whereas now this is not a ranging environment, and these candles are like kind of spiking crazily in both directions. So while volatility is still not as high as it was back in late May, it still doesn't really strike me as accumulation quite yet. And again, accumulation can occur in all time frames. Like, it depends, like, you know, maybe price accumulates for like 2 hours and then makes like a 1% move. Like, that's usually pretty standard. But or you could talk about like accumulation like in a very long time span, like during 2018 to 2019, at the market bottom, around 3K. Like, you know, price hung around 3 to 6K or whatever for months and months. Like, this is like the more classical accumulation period that you think about back then, but, or like 3 to 4K. But again, it's all just dependent on the context and dependent on what type of style you trade. For now, as I said, like, this still looks bearish to me, and if price does nuke below, then altcoins are just going to fucking die. 24K would be the level of interest here. With that said, I will consider changing my bias if price starts closing above 36K. And if it closes above 36K, then I would expect the 41K area to come. And at that point, there should be it should be a good shorting opportunity. Let's just briefly look at some altcoin charts. I mean, ETH/USD looks horrible, obviously, like, especially on high time frame charts. I don't see how you can really argue anything else. This just looks pretty ugly on all time frames. 1400 should provide some support. Again, that's still quite a little bit of ways away, but I mean, you know, this range low is about to get tapped again. We're seeing kind of this bouncing ball kind of analogy, same thing, like as we saw before with Bitcoin. Like, you know, good initial reaction kind of around this like $1,400, $1,700 level, depending on what exchange you were on. First good bounce, second bounce is like not as strong. I expect there to be some support here at like the $1,700 area, but it's to be determined how strong of a bounce this will be. Not so sure yet, but overall, like high time frame charts, it still like does not look good at all. Yeah, ETH like is interacting with the 200-day EMA. At least price is kind of still around that area, whereas Bitcoin it's like much below. But yeah, again, like I don't really see how you can call this bullish quite yet. I mean, I think recovery-wise, you'll need to see it kind of just chop around for quite some time. Like it had such a big move up that you need to see some sort of like long accumulation period, in my opinion. Like something like that in order for this to recover. But until that time, it just looks really quite ugly. There's coins also like Rune where this chart just looks terrible. I thought that it was going to go at least squeeze a little higher, but it already did have that kind of bearish retest around 14 bucks. From a volume profile standpoint, like max pain literally is way lower than we think. It could be like $1.50 or lower. Like that. As you can see with volume profile, there's like a lot of volume transacted during that area. Now that said, like there still is support like at $3 or whatever, but like if that falls out, then I expect this to like dump just down to 150 or something, which is just like pretty ugly in general. And same with like MATIC. Like MATIC is an area, like this is a coin that had a huge run, and I am long here, but I'm not really loving it. It's a swing low. It's a 200-day EMA. It is the bottom of this like kind of high volume node area. So I am hoping that this like gives like a temporary bounce, but I'm not like expecting like, you know, $2 or anything close to that. But yeah, let's just see how it goes. Like this is like first time it's tapped the 200-day EMA in quite some time. So we'll just kind of see how it goes in general. But if Bitcoin nukes and takes another leg down, then this is certainly going to go with it. And I would expect like 40 cents to be like the next leg up, in my opinion, which is pretty gross to think about. But yeah. AXS, that's crazy. It like wicked down to the perfect 0.5. The 0.5 fib level, which is cool to see. It means that I think I marked my fib level correctly, and this was not a hindsight chart either. With that said, I'm still bidding like 450 or something like that. 450 to 13. This would be like the area of interest, in my opinion, for AXS. It's holding up fairly okay for right now, and if it starts to chop around, and look like it's forming some sort of temporary bottom, I'll long, but then I'll get out at like 19 bucks or something. It's best to just like it depends on what style you trade, of course, but this is not the right environment to just like buy every dip at all. Like this is like the environment to like sell rallies probably for many of these alts, or to sit on your hands. That's like the probably better play for most people. But for AXS, like there's two scenarios in my opinion. It'll either like chop around at this like 0.5 area and then like kind of go back down and then head lower, or it will just head lower now and then like kind of 618 and then go up, bearish retest, hit some sort of lower high and then come back down. What you'll want to see for a coin like AXS after this massive fucking run is you'll want to see it, you know, it had its big run, it's coming back down, lower highs, lower lows, bearish market structure. But then you'll want to see it kind of ping pong at like the 618, and then it will kind of, if it consolidates for a little bit longer, and the longer the consolidation of the 618, the healthier the next move will be. If it just has like one quick reaction where it starts going up, it's pretty unlikely that run will be sustained. In my experience. But this is ultimately where I'm brewing, is like the 13 buck area. So anyways, things look bleak right now, guys. I appear to maybe be wrong about my idea of of it going to 50K or 45K. And you know, that's just like another learning experience. I've like really like played the last few months like not very well, I'll admit. Like I had these convictions that 45 to 50K would come and that altcoins would have like this like bearish retest, but so far altcoins have just fucking died. So like I appear to be like very wrong about my idea on the macro, which is a little bit disappointing given how long I've been in crypto and given I've made most of my money from making playing these big macro moves. But you know, just another lesson to learn and just another thing to remember for the next cycle. But anyways, please let me know what questions you guys have, and thank you for the support. Thank you.